Hey y'all, welcome back to Ryan and Robert Rants. Today, Robert and I are going to be continuing our Ironheart journey. Robert, which episodes are we going to be covering today?
We are going to be doing the final three episodes, episodes 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah. We finally made it to the end of Ironheart. This was
Three-year
going to be a
journey,
little,
2-week premiere.
yeah. Which is still, I mean, we'll get into it. But yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna do like a little brief review of the overall three episodes. Just a little the hit points of each one, basic story beats, and then we'll just spend the rest of the time just talking about what worked, what didn't work, and then at the end we'll have some final thoughts, and then we'll do our out of 10 rating. But other than that, Robert, you ready to dive in?
I'm ready.
Awesome, awesome. So let's start with episode 4 entitled Bad Magic. So for this one, it's basically just dealing with the fallout of everything that happened in the previous episode. They had the heist with I don't even remember what it's called. Heirloom.
Heirloom.
That's right. Yeah, with Heirloom resulting in John's death. So John is gone. We're left with back at her apartment. She's, having a panic attack with everything going on. Parker more or less suspects that Riri's involved in some way or form. Um, Now, on top of that, we also get a cut to Joe, who apparently gets arrested very fast, very, very quickly, thrown in prison. I think it's all like within the span of 2 or 3 minutes. Like everything happens. It's very throwaway.
Yeah.
The episode does open up though with a flashback of Parker and John. They're robbing some house, and some security guard ends up getting shot. And we also get the crew and Parker there, like in the headquarters restaurant where they're hiding out at. Apparently, that's what this was the entire time. I don't know if it's ever explicitly stated that they're in a restaurant.
I don't think so. I think we only saw the
Like,
upstairs, or if we did, it was like not necessarily like a restaurant or like one of the basically a closed down restaurant, right? So
yeah, and
yeah,
that they're like the layer and stuff is like all up above. So they're having basically like this whole vigil, I guess, if you will, for John, where they're all going around talking about him, and Riri's just there all quiet, looking suspicious, like she's involved. I'm like, dude, at least fake it, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
something. um and then from there, she ends up analyzing the hood. They realize that it disappears, then it comes back. This is when, she confides in her mom with what's going on with everything. And from there, that's when we're introduced. Or before we even get to that, I do want to mention there is a scene where Riri does go to visit Joe, which I'm still gonna call him Joe for now. So she goes to visit Joe in prison, and then she's basically sort of like, hey, she never apologizes. She
Nope.
never apologizes for her part in it. It's almost like she's sort of like, hey, it's, you're in here,
It happened.
sort of.
Sorry.
Yeah, and then he's just like, no, dude, like you ruined my life. Like I'm
Yep.
done. And then he wants nothing to do with her. And on top of that, we also have, like I said, this whole episode. So I'm just gonna cut to it now. I was gonna wait till the end, but I'm just gonna cut to it now. Earlier in the previous video that we did, the first three episodes, I had stated that with Riri's character, I don't really know too much. The gist of it that I understand is what we get in Wakanda Forever, and then what we get in these episodes. Now, I had more or less been on the side of her character of she's just, she's a naive kid. That's all it is. That's how it can be painted. I don't see, anything else being painted the other way. These three episodes completely flip that. Completely flip that. And I feel like they showcase her in a different light. Case in point with the scene with Joe in prison, where again she does not acknowledge her part in it. And even he says something to her. He's like, I realize, like you're just a kid in all of this. And like he's basically being the voice of the audience, saying like, this is what you're doing. And it would be one thing if you didn't see that, but these next three episodes and what we're going to discuss in them make it very visible that she's a horrible person. She really is. She's very selfish, very condescending, very me. So, in her panic, when she's like, oh my God, he's, figured it out and stuff like that, um, she's talking with Xavier and they're talking about everything. And then that's when she reveals Natalie. And this is when we get confirmation because even we were unsure. What is Xavier's relationship? What is Nat's relationship and all of this? Like, are they all
Yeah.
friends? Are they related in some way or form? Well, this is when we find out that Xavier is actually Natalie's brother. And it's
Yeah.
confirmed officially now. And she reveals, it's revealed that, hey, the well, I'm getting ahead of myself again. But it is revealed eventually. So again, these I'm doing four. These three episodes blend together. Like almost it feels like a race to the finish line. But the finish line almost doesn't exist because it's like we're trying to rush a story, but it's like we're trying to tie up loose ends real quick. So, like I said, she has a conversation with Xavier. Her whole thing is now she's, trying to create these things to try to protect them. This is when she creates those the wristwatch,
The
right?
watch, yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
watch. So she gives one to Xavier, she gives one to her mom, and she confides in her mom with what's going on. So they're like, we need magic. And this is when we cut back to her mom's friend, played by Cree Summer, which dude, she's been having like a real cool renaissance. Like I've always known her as the voice of Susie. And she voiced was it is it number 5 in Kids Next Door?
I don't know.
I don't remember, but yeah, like she's always been like a voice actress. Like as soon as I hear her voice, I know. But she's been having like a big resurgence in live action stuff. Like she's been in this, but she was also in an episode or two. I believe it was just one episode of What We Do in the Shadows. And then she's been in a couple of episodes of Abbott Elementary. And she's really funny in there. She's like their librarian. So it's a really funny story arc that she has in there. But basically they end up going to her shop and we find out this is when we start introducing magic. And again, Riri throughout this whole series, including this, is just she rolls her eyes anytime somebody says magic. Anytime something magical is brought up, they're like, "Oh, it could possibly be magic." She's like, "Ugh, no, it's not. Like it's either science or, like she said, wizards or whatever. Like you said before, the big three."
Big three.
Yeah. So in this episode, this is when we're introduced to I cannot
Zelma.
remember her.
Zelma's
Zelma,
name.
yes, Zelma. Who I actually do kind of like. Zelma was growing on me.
She's
She
an acquaintance to Doctor Strange in the comics.
is she really?
Yeah. She's
Yeah.
I think she's in the Strange Academy comics right now. Or I guess it's called Doom Academy now, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, she was really growing on me where she's like, during the summer, and Madeline is the name of Cree Summers' character. So Madeline's daughter, Zelma, gets introduced, which she was giving me I don't want to say Madison vibes, but sort of like that same type of like, oh, this is like not a secondary character, but like a third string character, but one that stands out where it's like, oh, okay, like I thought they were like an interesting spice to the
I don't
recipe.
know why, but she kind of reminded me of Jenna Ortega for some reason. I don't know what it was. Just the
It's
overall
her
look.
cadence, I think
Maybe,
her
yeah.
vibe.
I think so, yeah. Her line
Yeah.
delivery and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean she definitely stands out. She
Yeah.
really does. And then, this is when we're introduced to all, it turns out, like you said, and spoiler alert, I forgot to mention at the beginning, we are spoiling
You know.
this show. You should know by now. We're already well into it. But yeah, so she's basically doing everything magic wise, and they're going back and forth trying to figure out what it is. They basically say it's Dormammu. More likely, that's probably who it is. We'll get to who it is at the
Yeah,
end.
which is a
But yeah,
reference because I believe in the comics the hood does come from Dormammu.
oh, for real.
Yeah,
All right, that makes sense then.
yeah. So I think they're
Speak
just trying to reference that a bit.
Gotcha. Speaking of, this is also when we get Hood coming to
Hood.
see Joe in prison, and he's basically giving him a like this thing about, oh yeah, you should join me, all this stuff, I'll help you. And then we get a cut of Riri going back to the freaking silo, Joe's silo, and now she's like, okay, now I have all this. I'm gonna try and test out what this hood could possibly be. So they're going through it, and they're like, oh, it might be magic and stuff like that. And then everything happens. Riri ends up in a junkyard, and from there she goes and she has Isaiah jump into the suit. It's played for laughs. They have this back and forth there, and then this is when she reveals Natalie to Xavier, and he's just like, no. And she thinks he's gonna be all cool with it and like, oh yeah, it's awesome. And he's like, no, like why would you do this?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, like delete it. And she's like, what can I? And she's just like, no, no, I can't delete her. I can't delete her. And even she in the first episode was like, no, like I'm gonna start from fresh. Even she's like, it's wrong. And then in this one, he's even saying no. And he ends up abandoning her. He's just like, no, like I'm done with you. Like I can't. And it's just the back and forth. And again, she's just doing her thing, pity party, like it's not my fault, because none of it's her fault ever.
Yep.
She
Nope.
does not take ownership for any of her actions. And then Parker ends up breaking out. Joe ends up saying, hey, I have this thing, all these plans I want to do. So you're gonna basically implant my body with all these alterations. He gets his head shaved, which I guess he needed to. We get this really cringe line from Slug where he breaks out this razor and is like, oh, I'll shave you down or something like that. And it's just like, it's supposed to be played for laughs, but it's just really cringy. And then from there, like I said, that all happens. The episode pretty much ends right there. There's not much else. We get like a shot of Parker with the hood, and he's just like, whatever. And he does tell the crew, he's like, hey, she betrayed us. She's the reason John's dead. I want her dead. Or in this case, I want her head, is what he says. And that's the end of episode 4. Then we cut to episode 5, where this is where I will say, I lost all respect. Any respect. If I had a shred of respect for this show, I lost it all in this one. This is the one, like, within, like, the first 5 minutes of this show, I was done. So, Riri's by herself. Or, actually, no. Riri is by herself, but Natalie took the suit at the end of the last episode. So Riri's all alone. Natalie's watching playback from the beginning of the very first episode where Riri's like, I'm going to be bigger than Steve Jobs. I'm going to be bigger than Tony Stark. This and that, this and that. And we cut to, of all places, a White Castle.
White Castle.
Yeah, and then this is where she's meeting with Zelma. We get a sketch of Dormammu, and then this is when we get the inclusionary fight scene, like
Yeah,
the
the
most
television
inclusionary fight scene to fight scene them all. As one of my friends said, the Burger King Kids Club rolls in, and they basically just duke it out. And again, this is where we hit every checkbox, every virtue signaling, like every story beat you can hit within the span of 5 minutes. You have a scene where the blood siblings come in and they're like, you know, one of them's like, "Hey, everybody, you need to clear out and whatnot." And there's this guy that's visibly sitting in the booth, and he's like, you know, whatever. He does that. He does a little hand
There's
signal.
always that one.
Yeah, and then I think it's Roz goes over and she's like, "He said we're closed," and then just like punches the guy or like throws him or whatnot. It's just, oh yeah, she slams his head on the table, but it's just like a little, ugh, like it just looks
Yeah.
really bad. So they do, I will say, with the choreography, with the fighting, they do what we have talked about in Born Again, and I'm curious if you noticed it. It's the way they, it's almost like they're pausing and waiting for the moment when they're supposed to get hit. And it happens in this, especially when they're running through the kitchen area. Like Riri punches Roz or something like that. And apparently Riri has super strength in this scene because she's picking up freaking gas tanks and whatnot, or you know, H2O tank, or not H2O tanks. Was it you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's basically picking up the tanks and whatnot and just like hitting them. But it's a scene when she like pulls open the fridge and hits Roz in the face. Roz is like waiting there, and then the freaking thing hits. But yeah, they're throwing punches like they're superhuman all of a sudden, and this is never established in previous episodes. All that's ever been established is that they were in a fight club and they're the muscle, and that's it. So they do that. Was it Clown ends up coming in throwing grenades and bombs that, you know, are blowing stuff up, but apparently again, Riri can take an explosion.
If no
Um,
debris hits anyone, like it's
yeah,
just it's more for the visual, be like, oh cool, and then yeah, nothing actually comes from it.
yeah, and then they end up, you know, playing it for laughs, where the that watch comes back in handy. She ends up trapping the blood siblings in there, blows Clown up with a grenade, and then this is when Slug comes out of nowhere with the truck, trying to run Riri down. And the issue I have with that is, get on the freaking sidewalk, dude.
Yeah,
She's just like,
that's just a basic trope. Just run down the street, don't run side to side.
Yeah, it's just, it's so freaking stupid. And then this is when Nat finally decides she wants to come back. She jumps in. We get this really weird cut to Riri's face. I don't know if you noticed it, like when the suit picks her up. She's just like, ha, ha. And then when the suit goes up, she's like, just like no expression on her face. It's just, it's so bad. It's not even like a scold or anything like, yeah, like now you're in trouble. And she freaking flips the truck over, like
Yeah,
destroyed. The truck's done. Slug walks out like nothing. Not a scratch, nothing. Apparently, Slug is superhuman as well. Um, you know, they're there. Her and Nat decide to have a moment in the middle of the road, and this is when she ends up going up into the sky, and there's a shot in there, and I have the time stamp for it. It's 1334, around that time frame, 1330, 1334. When she leaves in the suit, she goes up into the sky, and as she does, when you look down on the street, there's a Black Lives Matter thing painted on the ground, and then it also has the rainbow colors for matter. And this is the most that you see this in these episodes, where it's like boom, it's in your face. It's even in the fourth episode. You get like, this is when you start getting like the Black Lives Matter posters, like very visual and whatnot. The first three episodes, not so much. Like I said, they do a lot to where they toe the line of, we could go there, but we're gonna pull it back. They don't go full She-Hulk. In these last three episodes, they go full She-Hulk. And again, like it's like these shots that they choose to do, it's like, oh hey, like did you see it? Did you catch it? And there's ways to subtly tell these things to where it can tie in with the story. But in here it's just like, oh hey, this is here. Notice this. So, that happens. Then Joe comes back. I will now start referring to him as Ezekiel, since now he's, owning up to the moniker. He's like, no, I'm Ezekiel now. And he's basically just having a one on one fight with Riri and the thing. And you can tell he doesn't want to kill her because he doesn't want to be that guy. He's like,
Yeah.
no, like, I'm mad. Yeah, but the whole thing is he even says, just get out of here. Just leave.
Yeah.
Leave
He wants to
town.
teach her a lesson. He wants to humble her more than anything else.
Yeah, and how is it that this is the guy that's supposed to be teaching the audience the lesson? He's not even a secondary character. He's third string. That's how he's treated in this show. He's a third string character. You were supposed to get these lessons from your main character and those around. The closest that we get would be around her would be Xavier and her mom. Xavier more than anything, but again, he is also treated like Joe, third string, where it's like they just pop up when they need to, but these are the ones that you need. You need a consistent person that's telling you, hey, morally, this is probably the right thing. This is the good thing. Like, own up to your stuff. But no, she's just surrounded by enablers. And they enable her and they just put her on this pedestal of, oh no, you're so great. Like, everything you're doing, you're not doing anything wrong. You are great. You are better than Steve Jobs. You are better than Tony. They never like shut her down and put her in her place. And again, like, this is when you showcase it. This is where Joe slash Ezekiel really shines. And unfortunately, his arc needs to be rushed in order to get there. We can't fully get it out. And again, I hate the way that they treated him in the first three episodes, where they just made him, oh, wimpy and whatnot, and oh, Riri, you taught me how to stand up for myself, and yeah, I'm chopping flowers. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, now this is how we're gonna showcase him. Like, it's a disservice to the story in general. A good story that could have been told, but they chose to opt out for it. They chose to virtue signal. They chose to do, everything that we've seen before in these past projects that prevent it from being telling a really good, authentic story about this individual, her struggles, her doubts, her hopes. Of You even said it in the last video about we could get a really good story where she's conflicted about you know what she might have to do, but she can opt not to do it. She can be like, you know what, I'll go through the struggle of trying to build this up, try to build the suit my way, to like really do it like Tony Stark would have done. He built his suit in a cave, and it all came down to the arc reactor was the thing that he created. We don't see her do that. Oh, mine is solar and wind powered. Like, that's it. It's like, what are you doing to better yourself or to stand out? You're not doing anything, and then you're complaining about it. And, like I said, that all happens. He ends up getting the suit out. She goes to her mom. They talk and have a back and forth. And this is also when we find out Hood is basically just using what's his face, Ezekiel. He's basically like, yeah, we killed her. She's done. They end up going to the shop. Riri dad.
It was her stepdad.
Her stepdad, right? Yeah, her
Yeah.
stepdad's shop. And her mom's basically like, hey, use this. This can be your area, where you got to do your stuff. We also get this is when we get Hood fighting with the gang, and like he starts beating on Slug, and they're like, stop, you're hurting her. And then he's just like, get out of here, I don't need all y'all. And then Clown's like, I thought we were family, all this stuff. And they're pretty much gone after
Yeah.
that.
That was it
Like,
for them.
yeah, like they're gone. They don't come back at the end. There's no like, oh hey, we're gonna help Riri defeat or anything. It's like, no, they're done. And back at the shop, we get Xavier coming in. He's having his talk with Riri. He feels how he feels about it. And basically, they're like, "Oh, we need to create a new suit." And this is when we find out that the car came back, that her mom bought the car back. Which, were they struggling financially? Were they okay or whatnot?
I don't know if they ever mentioned if they were struggling or anything like that.
Right? Like, I don't think they were. I just know that the only gist that we have of any sort of financial struggle is that Riri can't afford
Riri had
what.
financial issues. I don't think her mom did or anything.
Yeah, because she was like, after you sold the car, I ended up buying it back or
Yeah,
something like that. So again, like I said in the previous video, she never should have parted with that car. That never should have been a throwaway line, because her character wouldn't have done that with how tied she was to that car, regardless of her building a suit. That is not bigger than the love that she had for her dad and that car and how it was showcased. And the fact that the fact that they bring it back just to tear it down. Like, okay, let's strip the car. Boom, we're gonna go ahead and now we're gonna build the
they just
suit.
repurposed it to the suit.
Yeah, and this is where we get Zelma, and she's like, okay, now Riri's down with the magic. Now she's like, okay, now we
She
can
knew the
use the
power
magic.
source.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now because they're gonna pull it from Dormammu, is what they
Yeah,
state. And then this is when we get Ezekiel going back to the house. The neighbor comes back for no reason whatsoever, other than him to say like, "Hey, I'm done." Hood pulls up in a car, wearing the hood and a suit. Dude, he looks so tiny with that hood. Like I said, he looks like freaking McLovin and Role Models. Like right
yeah.
at the end, like just with that cape, like it just
LARPing.
doesn't fit him. And yeah, this is basically when we find out that he hacked into Ezekiel's stuff, so now he controls him, and basically he can command him what to and tell him what to do. We cut back to that mansion from the flashback. Turns out it's actually Parker's dad. He's his son. He abandoned him at 12, right? Something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
got rid of him after his mom died.
Yeah, and he's basically, the whole plan was he had gone to all the companies in his dad's portfolio and took over them as the sole owner. That's why he was having them sign over the dealerships. Or dealerships, the ownerships. I think it would have been a cooler way, which we're going to talk about in a little while, if those would have been not contracts for ownership, but contracts as far as what we're going to talk about in the next episode.
Yeah,
Like that would have been a cool twist, and it would have added to the mysticism of the story, because without it the only thing you have is the hood itself. And of course, he's talking with his dad and whatnot. The suit gets powered up. We have the magic taking over, but apparently it's starting to cause Natalie to glitch out, and it's overpowering it. And they're trying to back her up, which, Riri, why didn't you have her backed up already?
hubris.
Yeah, I agree. Hubris. And then that's pretty much where it ends. Natalie's gone. Um, the magic is implemented inside the suit. So now we have no more Natalie. And now we finally get to the final episode. Oh, yes. Episode 5 was called Karma's a Glitch. Episode 6 is titled The Past is the Past. Now, so far, Robert, before we get into this one, did you have anything you wanted to mention on those past two?
Yeah, I'm just gonna save it all for after this recap.
I got you. So, um, the episode starts, episode 6. We get again a flashback to John, um, and Parker. This is when they're in the mansion. They had broken in, so now we're getting like the closing end of that. Parker's on the run, which, I mean, his dad has some pretty good square footage. Not bad, not a bad house either. But yeah, they have like this little tunnel area and whatnot under a bridge. He's standing there inside the bridge, and he's cornered on both sides by security. And this figure approaches out of nowhere, hooded up in the darkness. He appears, and Robert, who is this hooded individual or mysterious individual that appears?
We finally got Mephisto after like almost 5 years of speculation on when he was going to show up. It was long rumored, or at least hinted at, that he was going to be in WandaVision. At least that's where it was looked like it was leading, but nope. Fake out. We finally got Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto.
Yup, he's finally here. SBC in the MCU. And we'll talk more about how we feel about that at the end. But yeah, so, he's in here having a conversation with Parker, and he's telling him, oh, I'm a fan of yours and whatnot. I want to be in the Parker Robbins business. And he's basically, asking him. This is where we get full Lucifer, and I'm talking about the show. Like, he's basically, what is it you truly desire?
Yep.
Like, full on Lucifer in here. And, they're talking, they're in the restaurants for Parker's hideout. And basically, they're just having a back and forth conversation. And, he's just asking him, what is it that you want? And he's just like, I want power. I want respect. Like, I want all this stuff. And he's like, he's basically, okay, I'll give it to you. And he tells him, here, use the hood and stuff like that. So they shake on it. He gives it to him. And again, the hood, just like, it would look cooler, I think, if it's more down to the ground. But it doesn't. Like, it cuts off at his knees. So it looks more like a little cape than anything. But again, he's so tiny already. Like, it just looks like he's doing cosplay. So again, I think like a nice cloak down to the ground, like give it like that ominous thing, sort of like Thor. Like, I think it would look a little cooler. But again, like I've said since the beginning, I cannot buy him as the Heavy. He just doesn't look menacing. And he doesn't really do anything too menacing. He always has people do it for him. And it's all just conversation. So, we cut through that. He's having a spread at his dad's house. He's talking with Ezekiel, and he's basically like, hey, we're going to kill Riri. We got to do this. But Ezekiel's basically like, no, like, I don't want to do this. This isn't me. And this is kind of where we get like a step back from the character he was becoming at the end of episode 5, and this is more reverting to who he was in the first 3 episodes, because now he's all timid again and he's all nervous and whatnot. And again, it's a disservice to the character, because it felt like it was heading in a good direction where he's like, I finally made it to this point. I'm standing my ground now, but I'm owning up to, what? No, this is wrong. I'm done with this. This is what I'm gonna do. So again, we're getting more of Parker's like scars and stuff are like coming out. Riri's still trying to. We finally cut back to Riri. She's still trying to get Natalie back. Zelma's still helping them out. Like, hey, I'll look more into it on my end. And then this is when Riri shows up at the restaurant. Again, this episode is so freaking short, and it is so rushed. It is so freaking
previous
rushed.
Two were like almost like 50-55 minutes long. This one was like 40.
Yeah, it's
with credits.
With credits, very, very short. It almost feels like they chopped off the end of the previous episode and said, oh, we have enough to make, a 6th episode. So again, this is where, we cut to the restaurant. Riri takes off. She's like, okay, I'm going to go confront Parker. Now I have my new suit. So, she gets there. Parker's having his back and forth with Mephisto. They're talking about what's going on. Riri is like, okay, I have to fight Ezekiel now. So they have like a little one-on-one in the thing, and she throws him into the freezer, and he's basically like, hey, like, I don't want to do this. I'm being controlled. And then we have one of the worst lines in the show. And she's like, they realize that everything, he does, it's, controlled and whatnot. And she figures out, well, at least there's one place that I'm pretty sure wasn't altered. And if we do something to it, it'll be like a hard reboot. And we'll be able to, get you back to what you need to be. Robert, What is it that they need to do for the hard reset?
Kick him in the groin. But you know, I'm not gonna lie, I get hard reset too every time I get hit there. So I mean, there is some logic behind it. There is some. I mean, I don't have any bionics in me, which I wish I had some in my knee. But look, there is some logic behind getting hard reset when you get hit in the groin.
Logic in a very illogical show.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's just it's such a cop out, and it just again another step back for his character. It's just like how can we demean this character even more? We've already
yeah,
belittled him by making him a wimp and having to get told how to be a man and to be an adult by, a young child. How can we demean him more? Kick him in the groin. Yeah, that'll do it. And then again, it's played for laughs, but it's like I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing. It would be funny if it was like, okay, this is like a bumbling full like Superman, like an Otis type character. Like a bumbling henchman. If that was the case, it would be played for laughs. It's funny because that person is meant to be the joke. But this guy is not meant to be a joke. He's the butt of a joke. And again, he's supposed to be this own character, which you said in the comics, he's a pretty menacing dude.
yeah.
But the way that they treat him, no, he's just subservient. Like that's all it is. And I hate that in the writing. I hate that so much. And then we finally, cut to Parker and Ironheart fighting. So they do their thing. Parker gets the drop on her. He's got her at gunpoint and whatnot. And then it turns out, oh, it was all just fake. She ends up taking the hood. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. There's no consequences. He doesn't get killed. She doesn't get injured. Like, nothing. No consequences whatsoever. And then we finally get a sit down with MEPHISTO and Riri. So they sit down. We do get a brief, very brief look at MEPHISTO. In
Yeah.
all honesty, it looks bad.
Yeah, it's the reflection in a small spoon. Like you don't even
Yeah,
get to see too much. I
yeah.
would have preferred if they would have just
A
like did the
reflection
whole
or something.
yeah, or no, like just had him like when he revealed himself, just like
Reveal it.
have like everything just like morph.
It would have looked cool, practical. He would have looked
Yeah,
like a Zazel, right? A Zazel from
yeah, yeah,
First
yeah,
Class,
yeah,
like
yeah.
something like that is what I picture. And it would have looked cool. It would have looked really cool. But no, they just have this back and forth about how she's basically being like, oh, I can help you become iconic and stuff like that. And she's just having a back and forth of like, oh, should I do it? And it's just cutting back to like everything through the previous episodes, Natalie, all of that. And then we get a flash forward, which you think is like, okay, this is happening because of how it
Yeah.
pans out and how long it is. Like we're getting cuts of the city, cuts of like all this stuff. And this is a question I have for you because we cut to Riri back in the garage. She's studying the magic. She's working on these formulas. She is visibly older in this scene.
Yeah,
Do
different hairstyle,
you
everything.
what's up?
Different hairstyle, yeah.
Yeah, different hairstyle, visibly older. Like she looks older in the face. I have a question for you. We know that this was filmed years ago, almost going on
2022.
5 years now.
2022 is when it filmed.
Yeah, so it's been a minute. This scene, do you think that this scene was filmed recently?
Yes,
Right?
I think it
Because
was. Yeah,
yeah, because it's the only way that would make it work. It's the only way. Because when you look at her, like I said, she is visibly older, and the way that it's cut in between, it's like it cuts mid sentence from them talking. And like I said, this scene goes on for a minute. It's like a 5 minute scene or so, and then they cut back to the restaurant, and she's contemplating, and she's seeing I'm guessing he's projecting this into her mind of what it could be, or she's doing it. Like I don't know. But it's basically like he's offering like, hey, if you make your deal with me, I can bring her back. So it's cutting to a flash forward, but it's also cutting back to present time. They shake hands, and then this is when it cuts, back to the flash forward, and you see the same scars and stuff like that Parker had. And then it ends. It just freaking ends. Like
Yep.
that's it. That's all that happens. But we do get a post credits scene. Would you like to talk about that, or would you like me to go into
Um,
that?
yeah, so you see Parker, I think he's wearing a regular hood now, walking down the streets of Chicago, and he ends up into the Zelma shop. It's like fronted as a candy store. So he walks in and he knows like Zelma is all about magic, and he's basically just requesting her help about like he needs, I guess he got that taste of magic, so he needs that life back. So he's just like let's get he's like I know who you are, let's get into it, like let's for sure go down that road in magic. And Zelma was, you got that look, and Zelma's just like, well, all right. Yep.
Yeah, and that's how it ends. Like it's what vibes it gives me from that? It gives me Mordo vibes from Doctor
Yeah.
Strange. Like it basically ends the same way. He's essentially like too many sorcerers. And it just feels like again another scene that's never going to come to fruition
Nope.
for anything. Like that's it, and that's the end. That's the end of Ironheart. Now, Robert, let's talk. What worked? What didn't work?
Okay. Well, I'm trying to think on. I'm trying to get the cues. Don't really have too much time at the moment. Um, so I will say, and it's in terms of Riri as a character, I think they did an okay job, at least giving her some sort of like layers. They're not good layers, right? Her character's morally questionable. Um, she doesn't make any good decisions throughout the series, and you might expect that from your title character to an extent, because you have to go on that hero's journey, right? Your hero's gonna attempt and fail, and it isn't towards the end when you finally get those good influences like her mom, or Xavier, her role model Gary, her stepdad. Um, and then you expect her at the end to finally realize like her flaws, right? She is selfish. She's a genius, but I mean, you can kind of go in the extent like, yeah, Tony Stark was selfish. He made a lot of questionable decisions even after he became Iron Man. Like it was him trying to play God, thinking he was better than everybody else. And it wasn't until like he had his humbling moment. But even after, Stain beat her, it seemed like when she finally got her support group, she was still kind of a little bit naive or arrogant at some point. Um, and I don't know if that scene with Mephisto is, and I don't know if it's actually she actually made the deal, because that scene was it was a little ambiguous. I don't know if that flash forward is actually happening. But if she makes the deal with Mephisto, then it completely just derails everything she could have learned throughout the series. Like, yeah, throughout most of the series, she was making stupid decisions. And if you deny his deal, then I was like, okay, now she's learning. You get it. Yeah, it took a while to get there, but she's learning. But if she did end up making the deal, which again, I don't, I'm assuming it's not ambiguous and she did make the deal. Um, then that just kind of like derails any development. Like I think they did a good job adding some layers to her. Like the panic attacks, just her having questionable morals. She wants to do good, but she does dumb things to do it. And then you do the dumbest thing later by making a deal with Mephisto, and it just derails all that development that you could have had throughout the series. So I think there's a little difference between layers and developing your character. And I think she's layered decently enough. They just if it the deal with Mephisto just derails any development. That being said, I think I like what's his name? I wouldn't even know how to pronounce his last name. Aaronhart, Alden Ehrenreich or something. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I do like him as Stain. I honestly think okay, so his whole arc should have been him meeting Riri, them becoming friends, her losing his piece of tech, him getting arrested, and then just having that meeting in jail. That's it. Like he just turns his back on her like that. That's it. The post credit scene, this is how it should have gone. He's still in jail, right? He doesn't get broken out by Robbins, but he's in jail post credit scene. This is when he gets you can even have Mephisto making this deal, but I got one better because I want this actor to come back. He gets a visitor, right? And it's Sam Rockwell.
Ooh.
He's like, you
Freaking
know what?
Justin Hammer coming back.
Justin Hammer makes it, and then that could have led into Armor Wars had that project. We don't even know what's going on with it, right? But he's
Yeah.
just like, you know what? He's like, you have all these ideas, you have all this tech. Let's let's go after I guess the whole Iron Man legacy, right? I think that would have been cool because then you could have had him develop more into a main villain in another series, another movie, another project.
Yeah.
So you don't have to rush his whole thing in one movie or one show, which, like you said, was like a third side beat. So then you could have focused the show. Like after that, you could have focused the show more on Robbins, making him more, fleshing him out more, and then you could have developed the other characters in his group. Like I
Yeah.
think they did okay with the pyromaniac. I don't remember her name. Um,
Clown.
Clown. Yeah, I think they did okay with her. They added a little bit of nuances to her character. She had some other layers, like she had a crush on Stain, stuff like that. Like you could have still included that by showing like the news, right? And her
Yeah.
just having like a crush or whatever. Um, but the other ones I felt like were underdeveloped, and I think it's just because they didn't spend too much time with them. But you could have used a little bit more screen time, develop those characters, make that group feel more like a family. So then the betrayal by Rob Parker later, you feel it more, but you don't really feel that. So, you know, yeah. And then when they all go after Riri, you kind of get that. Again, if you had developed that relationship more, you could have had like a conflict between them all, right?
Yeah.
Because they're subservient to Robbins because he's their family. He kind of like saved them, gave them a purpose, but yet they also like Riri. So that whole conflict would have just been had a lot more deeper meaning to it than just fighting in a White Castle. Um,
Yeah.
which I didn't know some White Castle restaurants had those robotic arms. That's actually a real thing. That wasn't just added for the show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But then, yeah, you could have, explored more of Parker's backstory with his cousin. I thought they were going to go more into the contracts that the people were signing were going to be like, that was maybe part of Mephisto's deals. Like, hey, like,
Yeah.
he wants to make deals with, like, what did he say? Top 100 richest people. He made a deal with 100 of them.
Yeah.
Um, so like, yeah, it's like, no, it's like, you know what? I'm going to give you this hood. You want to bury your dad and, become, I think it was like filthy, stupid, greasy rich.
Yeah.
He's like, but you get these people to sign these contracts, because they're just going to sign, but then their souls go to him. And then maybe
Yeah.
he kind of like boosts the hood more, gives the hood more powers, like the actual hood. Like that could have been, you could have explored that transaction more.
You're already
So
writing a better story, dude. Like everything that you're saying, I can see happening and
yeah,
being like, you know what? That's compelling. That Ironheart, 8 out of 10 stars
yeah.
from that
And then,
because you're building a world and you're building characters, you're building conflict, you're building hope, you're building strife, like obstacles. Like
thank you.
no, of
But yeah,
course,
I
dude,
mean,
of
that's
course.
kind of what I think Sacha Baron Cohen, like, I loved his look as, the human form of Mephisto. Um, and I kind of like the little subtle things they were doing with his voice, the camera work, trying to like elevate his menacing look, right?
Yeah.
Um, I would have loved a full reveal of his, true form when he's talking to Riri, like when he's like making fun of Dormammu and he's just like, well, you can call me, Mephisto. And then I would have liked how it would have just transitioned to his real look, or even if
Yeah.
it's just like a quick like flash, like what we got in the spoon just looked like a, you know, you've seen those Japanese like red oni masks with the long nose.
Yeah.
They're like usually, yeah, that's exactly what it looked like in the spoon.
I was getting
Um,
a CW CGI vibes, like when it would be like a villain on the Flash or like the
yeah,
Arrow, like that's what it looked. It just looked like really bad CGI.
yeah.
And it's like,
But I mean, yeah. So I did like Sasha Baron. He's pretty good casting, I think.
yeah,
Um, Hopefully, we see him in the future better projects. Of course, I like Zelma. Zelma was a good side character to introduce. Um, but other than that, like, I mean, her mom was a good character. Xavier was a good character to have, just because you need that moral, right? The good moral part, the ones
yeah,
that you know you lean to like kind of build up the character. But I just think they didn't do a good job, at least developing the case, especially if it ends the way, you know, her making a deal. Like she should have realized, like, you know, taking on the Xavier's like, no, this is wrong. Like Natalie, unfortunately, is gone. You know, because you bring her back for selfish reasons. If that's the case, it's not going to do anyone, again, selfishness, right? But
yeah.
like I said, I think they did a decent job, like giving her some layers, but her progression and her development just did not do well for the character. But I don't know too much of her in the comics specifically because I didn't get into her character in the comics. But so yeah, all I know mostly from her is the MCU portrayal.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I got for. I kind of went into both what worked and didn't work. But that was my pitch on creating the changes I would have made.
A very better project.
I mean, that could be subjective too, but yeah, I mean, as one single audience member, that's what I would have liked,
Nice.
and more Sam Rockwell.
Yeah. Oh man, always more Sam Rockwell. Always MCU or not, always more Sam. Um, yeah. I For the most part, I agree with everything that you said. The biggest issue, one, let's talk about the format of the actual show. Again, I stand by it. This should have just been a two-part series.
Yeah,
Two-part series, 90 minutes for each one, boom, boom, or, however long. This did not need to be 6 episodes, especially this last episode. I think the reveal of Mephisto was way too late. I think he should have been revealed because, again, hinted at, but it feels very drawn out. He should have been maybe introduced a little earlier. I would say maybe episode 5. Maybe. Um, Again, I can't buy Parker as the heavy. The crew, you hit it like on the head. Out of the crew, Clown was the only one that was actually formed with dimensions, with layers. Because, like you said, yeah, oh, she has a she has a crush and whatnot. But she even puts the hood on. Like she fights. Like she gets a lot of screen time, especially during the fight scene. Um, and even she's the one that's like, oh, let's find the autopsy for
yeah,
Rampage,
that's right.
like which reveals,
She's the one
that.
having the doubts, right? When Riri tells her about that it was Parker that ordered Rampage's death, and John was the one that committed it. So she's the one that's actually starting to have the doubts.
Yeah, when it should be, again, the way that it's portrayed with the crew, they're a family. It does not feel that. You don't ever get that whatsoever. All they do is they just talk at each other, and that's it. And yes, for the other characters, they are one dimensional. They don't do anything at all throughout this whole series. They're just there. They're just window dressing. And it sucks because that is the opportunity where you can showcase these characters because yes, these characters do have, certain identities and backgrounds. This was your opportunity to portray that. But you didn't. You chose to put them up on a pedestal and use them as window dressing for a message. That is what's hurting the projects. That is what hurt She-Hulk. You have the opportunity to, you always want to talk about, oh, we're not seeing, or oh, like, where are our projects? This is your project. This is your opportunity. You wanted to race swap, you wanted to gender swap these characters. Okay, you did that. Show me why. Show me, make these characters compelling, make me root for them, make me hate them, make me be shocked by them. But no, you
Yeah.
copped out because you couldn't write the story. You couldn't write for these characters. And it sucks. It really does suck. But like I said, that's how I have felt about the crew. I've been wanting to say that for like the last 6 videos, but I've been trying to figure out how to word it. But that's what frustrates me, is that there's opportunities for these a series like this to actually exist and be good, but they can't write it because they can't help themselves. They cannot help themselves on just posting up window dressing.
Yeah. They think just by the cast it should just be like they're present, that's enough. But like no, like even if it's just a normal person, or like I mean I don't want to say normal person. That's not what I mean. But
It's
like
someone
if
that
it's
doesn't
just
have
like
that background, a different
yeah,
background,
or I mean
different,
just any
you know.
character you have, like you had that's the purpose of a 6 episode 40 to 50 minute per episode thing, is you have the time. It's not a 2 hour movie where you have to just kind of like you have your title character, you have hopefully your villain, which we know Marvel in the past has not developed villains very well. um yeah. I mean, but like you have shows like Loki, like every character had its got their development. I mean, even even the what was it episode he who remains, even
Yeah.
he was in one episode. I mean, yeah, Jonathan Majors is amazing, but one episode he already felt like he was a more compelling character than the entire crew was in all 6 of these combined.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't do yourself any favors with any character. You have all this time, you have the opportunity. Fill up the screen time, make every minute count. Like, yeah, you're gonna have a little fluff here and there just to go from like you're like transitional, right? Like if how are you gonna move from scene to scene to scene? But like you have the time. It's not a 2 hour movie. You can flesh out these characters,
Yeah.
or just don't include as many as you did. Like
Yeah.
eliminate one of them, and then you have more time. Like I don't know, but
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to talk about was Riri. Just
yeah,
Riri in general. Like I said, this character in the first 3 episodes, you can feel that there's some sort of progression
yeah,
as we go. And again, it only works based off of your supporting roles, because they support the character's journey. They're there to give the character choices of, I can do this or I can do this. Now, in at the end of the 3rd episode, she realizes, oh my god, like, I'm in too deep. This is the opportunity for her to grow, to become that compelling character for the next 3 episodes. We do not get that. We do not get growth. We just get complaining that I'm still right, I'm still the best, this and that, better than Tony, better than Jobs, like better than everyone. And again, it's that ego. It's the chip on the shoulder. There is no humbling factor. This does not end humblingly. The only way that it would end is if at the ending she tells Mephisto, no. Like, I know
yeah.
who I am and I know what I'm gonna do. And I don't need that, because I'm gonna work hard. You know what I mean? Like, make it a positive message where it's like, even after everything she's gone through, this is the main character's moment where she
Yep,
tells Evil, "Get out of here." Like, no,
yep.
like, I'm not
I
gonna take
mean,
a handout. I'm not gonna.
there's no way. I mean, you tell the devil straight up no. Like, what more? What more could a character end up doing, right? Like to
Yeah,
show that hey, I'm better than who I was. Like,
yeah,
quote, the past is the past. That was literally the title of the episode. Like, no, You tell him no, saying no. The past is the past. It's gotta let it. We gotta let it lie. I gotta build towards the future. But yet, if she, again, I don't know if she made the deal. It seemed like she made the deal. I'm gonna assume she made the deal just for the purposes because it's what it seemed like they showed. Because why would you show it if she didn't, right?
Yeah.
So
There's
yeah,
no point in
it just
making it
seems like
ambiguous.
yeah,
There's no point.
she reverts like, okay, if the past is the past, then why did you make the deal to bring Natalie back?
Yeah. And that's what I mean though, is like there's no reason to leave it ambiguous. Just
Yeah,
close it off. Close this arc off, and then you set up a season 2 or the next movie, like whatever it is. Um Keeping Parker around I think was a mistake.
yeah,
Um
he should have been just sucked back to. Should have been the scene where Mephisto just takes him.
Yeah, like end it. End his character. That's the end of his story arc. He's already lost everything. He's gained what he needed to. There needs to be consequences. But again, this does not set up Mephisto in any way. All he
Yeah,
does is show up. It's like, no, you need to show like, okay, here's consequences for reneging on the deal. Boom, your soul. Or like I even said, the only thing that would make this like up there is he rips out of Parker's body or something like that. Then it's like, okay, 9 out of 10. Boom. Perfect. But no, like it's just they rush to the finish line. Again, there is no finish line because I don't know what this ending was.
yeah.
So again, that's everything. I mean, let me at least try to say one nice thing what worked. Um the side cast, like you said, her mom, Xavier. I really enjoyed Ezekiel up until they backpedaled on him.
Yeah.
Like again, like it's like no, you're heading in the right direction. In these last 3 episodes, undo all of the goodwill, any goodwill that would have been there, just for the sake of doing what they did. But with that being said, these last 3 episodes, what do you give out of 10?
For these 3 episodes, I mean, there was, like you said, there was a lot of flashy set dressing that people could find enjoyment out of. Like, if you're not going into it too analytically, like we kind of make ourselves do, right? Like, if I'm going in and I'm just straight up watching it, there's a lot to like, and it'll appeal to quite a bit of audience, um, despite the online backlash that it just wants to get review bombed before it even comes out. Um, but in terms of substance, I gotta like knock it down. Again, the title character, like she was on a journey. Like I think I even said it in the first 3 episodes where I don't know much about her, but it seems like she was on a journey. And of course, when you're on a journey, you're gonna stumble. And it's how you learn from those stumbles that truly define who your character is or is going to be. They didn't write her in a way where she was learning from it. It just seems like she reverted back to who she was back at MIT, except on a larger scale with Mephisto. You're not just making a deal with random students. Um, so
Oh
yeah,
god, that would have been fun. Mephisto was there the entire
every
time
single,
making deals with all those
every,
students.
but yeah. So I mean, for these 3 episodes, I don't even know remember what I get. I'd probably give it like a 5.5 out of 10. I think the overall
Wow.
series, yeah, I think the overall series I'd probably give a 6 out of 10. And I think it's better than a good portion of the Disney Plus shows, but that's such kind of a low bar. Like we have some high highs with Disney Plus shows, WandaVision, Loki being just two of the top ones, but then you have kind of low lows, Secret Invasion, She-Hulk is another one. So it's just kind of like right drab in the middle. It's like it's nowhere, it's not going to touch the best, right? Nowhere even close, but it's also not, I don't think it's going to touch closer to the bottom. It's kind of like just middle ground.
Yeah. Okay. Fair assessment. Fair assessment. Um, Last 3 episodes. Like I said, any goodwill that the first 3 episodes had completely annihilated with these last three, and it undoes. Like you said, it's like the heroes on the journey.
Yeah, you can
You're
kind of
gonna
see it every
stumble,
single.
but it's how you get back up. It's how you're like, and that's the whole thing about a hero's arc. It's the getting back up. It's, the Steve Rogers, he always gets back up. It's Iron Man in the third movie overcoming those odds. It's Black Panther, he gets thrown off the cliff, and everything gets burned, but it's how he comes back. He's like, I get back up. All three of these get back up. Wanda in WandaVision goes through everything she does, still pays her penance for it, defeats the evil, but still realizes I'm still part of that problem, but I'm going to deal with my stuff. Like, I'm taking ownership for it. So you don't ever get that getting back up scene. It's everyone just getting around her saying, you're the best, you're great. And again, like you said, she just reverts back to old Riri. She doesn't learn, she doesn't grow. Even after someone dying, you feel like that would be the shift, but it's more she's just like, oh, no, I'm just trying to cover up that I did it. And she never learns from it. So with that being said, I think I had said, was it 4?
I think you gave it a 4.
4.5 was
Four and a
being
half, something like that.
generous.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was a 1.5
1. That's low.
for me. This is a 1.5 for me. And again, it's because it does not do anything to increase the value of the characters. It tears them down. And it's not even one where you could say like, oh, in a dark comedy, oh, this is like a dark comedy, like Shameless, where it's a cycle where it's like, oh, they do it, but then they revert back. They do it, but then they revert back. This is a superhero show. This is a superhero we're supposed to be rooting for. And you can't. You can't root for her because she never learns. And again, you could chalk it up to her being.
That got annoying after a while too.
Yeah, like
Shameless, season after season, it's like once those characters got somewhere, they self-sabotage, and it even in that show, it got,
redundant
difficult to watch. Yeah,
yeah,
and I was like, come on, guys, learn something. Like, I get it, your background and your whatever, but like,
which also takes place in Chicago.
Yeah.
So again, the point, the 0.5 that I'm giving it is, again, because of the secondary characters. I enjoyed Zelma. I think she's a cool addition. I liked her mom. Her mom was trying to be the voice of reason. Xavier too was trying to keep her humbled and like leveled. I liked Ezekiel's character as far as what we got in episode 5, where it's like, okay, this guy has this is who I wanted to see the entire time. Like, he's like, I'm not a killer, I'm sparing your life, leave town, get out of here. Like, he's doing what he can to protect her. Like, there's that point where it can turn into something good, and then they just revert back. And again, it just felt like it was towards the finish line. I do want to mention, and I'm going to share it with you off screen right now. Mephisto was actually teased further back. You said WandaVision, but he was actually teased back in 2009. And I am sharing something.
Oh, was it the Iron Man 2?
Huh? No.
No, there was a...
No, even further back. Even further back than that.
I know there was something... I know there was something with Nick Fury in his files that...
I'm sharing it with you on the screen right now.
Oh, that one, yeah.
So he was... So if you look in this image, he was actually teased back in 2009. I'm debating whether or not we put this image up in the video, but I wanted to show you that, yes, Mephisto's been teased for a while.
Yeah, I know he was in some kind of Shield redacted documents. I think it was either Iron Man 2 or Avengers.
Probably, I would.
Just the name. I think it might even been a deleted scene, but yeah.
Maybe in the files at the end of Iron Man 2 when he has them spread out on the thing.
Something, yeah. I know it's just mentioned, but it just says like Mephisto or something.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, it's a 1.5. I can't go any more than that. If we go overall, including that 4.5, 2.5. 2.5 is where I sit at. I honestly don't plan on watching this again. And something that you brought up in the last video, I just want to mention one final thing. The city of Chicago being used as a character. There's some really good shots of Chicago in here. There are some really good shots, but it's never really used. The city's not used. Like, I feel like we could have used some more scenes where we could have those landscapes. But a lot of times when they do use the scenes, it's just to talk about how great Riri is and how she's gonna be iconic and how she's gonna, she has to be better. And why? Because she could. And I love that her mom. There's that scene where her mom. She's like, "You wanna try that again?" Because
Yeah.
she's like, "Then why did you build it?" Because I could. You want to run that again? Like, her mom being the audience.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're supposed to be rooting for you. But yeah, like I said, that's all I have on my end. I've spoken my piece, or this piece, or I don't know if that's a word. My internal struggle with Ironheart. What about you? You got anything else?
No, I think I touched up everything I wanted to.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you all so much for watching. We really do appreciate it. I know this was a little bit of a longer one, but there was a lot we had to unpack. Not just these last three, but the full project as a whole. But please, please, please like, subscribe if you're not already. And as Robert always says, get down in the comments. We want to hear from you. This is one of the last projects we're going to get for a while from Marvel that we know of, because they haven't announced anything else aside from the movies that are coming out. And I don't count any future projects until I actually see a trailer from something. But get in there. What did you feel about these three episodes? What did you feel about the full project? Is there a good story in there? Do you agree with Robert? Like, there's some things we could have done differently. Or do you feel like, no, this project was perfect as it was, there's nothing you would change? Get in the comments. We want to hear from you. And Robert, speaking of other projects, would you like to let them know about what we got going on the channel?
Yeah. So upcoming this week, we're going to be launching our new rank series. I'm not sure if we've announced it yet, so just stay tuned. That video should premiere Thursday. We just got through concluding our Superman rank series. We do have one more, or by the time this goes up, that should be live. We also have our predictions coming up for James Gunn's Superman. We will also be doing a review of that one. We also have a bunch of trailer reactions. We pretty much upload almost one every day. We have a lot of fun doing it. We're also taking requests. We had one of our first requests go live on the channel. That was a lot of fun. Is doing really well. So yeah, feel free to check it all out.
Awesome, Robert. Thank you as always. And thank you all for watching. Catch you in the next one.